Hey Matt, how you doing?
How's it going?
Doing great. I think we're going to be talking about exos in construction today, aren't we?
Yeah. So as you can see, newer board,
Very
freshly
nice.
moved.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
So fresh coming live from the fresh new office. Yeah. So recently I've been doing a lot of work. As anybody who's seen me on LinkedIn or seen, well, I shouldn't say we've been doing a lot of work looking at certification of exos, looking
Right.
at the safety of an exoskeleton. Why is it important to look at exoskeletons the way that we do? So just the other day, I received an email from a journal who was saying, look, we know about the work that you guys have been doing. Would you like to submit some work to us? And we're
Nice.
for the building and construction environment. Got to say, it's a new area for me. I mean, I've designed exos, quite a few different conditions, conditional states, predominantly more in just looking at joint motion and looking at the way to support a joint in motion.
Right.
So coming at it from application base has been really interesting. So I've obviously taken it up. It's a great opportunity to really get the word out further about exoskeletons in that area. So that pushes nicely into today's topic of exoskeletons in construction.
So I have to ask, have you ever worked on a construction site, Matt?
So yes, I have. When at the first day that I left school, my father always said to us, "You will have a job straight after." So no word of a
Good
lie.
idea.
I finished on the Friday from my schooling, and he said to me, "You start on the building site on Monday," and
Wow.
I was straight on the building site on Monday. I was a bit of a helper, and for a couple of years, I worked as a painter on a construction site. So between this, you end up helping carpenters and
Right.
also
Right.
a lot of construction bricklayers. So I got my own experience of scars all over my hands from where things just don't work out as you want them to be.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I did, and I've seen some real strength in some people just moving things around, men and women.
Oh yeah.
You look at some people and you go, "Dang, I'm pretty sure that Hercules is in the building." Some people lift weights, and you go, "There's nothing to you. How
Yeah,
do you do
yeah,
it?"
there's nothing. I mean, I worked in construction a couple times. I was way long ago in high school. I was for summer job. I worked for a surveying company. Yeah, toting and lifting and moving stuff around and cutting through woods and all that kind of stuff. And then later on in my career, I was part of a huge construction project in Washington D.C. and got to see and experience a lot of stuff. I remember the safety briefings we had to get before we went on site. It was funny. They were more concerned about unexploded ordnance and this rare turtle that if we saw, everything stopped.
we, we had unexploded ordnance from World War II. A fear of that there was undiscovered bombs that had
Oh
dropped.
yeah,
Because in the UK, you still get that now.
yeah,
There'll
oh
be
yeah,
people who look and go, "Is that a bomb?" And they'll
yeah,
they'll find old bombs that were never let off.
yeah.
Um, So yeah, and also one of my favorite ones was COSH, the control of substances hazardous to health,
Oh yeah.
and some of the training that you get on it. Don't drink this. Don't touch that. You kind of go, I know.
Yeah. There's a reason why that training's there, right? Because somebody did.
Exactly. So I think this moves quite nicely into just exos all round on the
Right,
construction side. So my kind of focus at this point is those everybody's seen scaffolders,
right.
the scaffolding structures. You'll get a team of, say, typically it's only like 5 or 6 guys or women, men or women,
Right.
apologies, who come in and erect these structures like in minutes.
Yeah.
It's like Meccano for adults. It's great. Then they get on there, and most of the time they tend to be a part of scaffolding company and the construction and bricklayers. So when they get on there, they're still using the methods for the old wheelbarrow. So
Sure.
they're filling it full of concrete, filling it full of brick, stone, whatever they need for that. They're then transferring it all over the place. And you can imagine the level of loading that's going on the body. It's huge.
Right. Right.
The reason I'm explaining from this case is this is me actually explaining where even my paper's going at the moment. So that kind of sets up the context of where exos sit. However,
Yeah.
I'm now going to start doom and glooming a little bit, and then we're going to have to counteract. So I will stop talking in a second. I've just got so much to say. So we then get on to exos. So let's say, and I'm not going to name anybody in particular. I'm just going to explain the scenario. These are real scenarios.
Right.
Like say we've got an exoskeleton that's supporting around the hips and around the legs.
Mm-hmm.
It's tested with somebody not in it, hopefully. It's tested with somebody in it to make sure they can move, but never formally tested with them moving around or moving a particular way.
Right.
What's actually happening is it's shifting their center of gravity.
Really?
And as it's shifting their center of gravity, some cases, and I say some as in over 200 over the past 2 years, have tripped, fallen over because that center of gravity was shifted from wearing the device, or is it?
Yeah. So tell folks what do you mean by center of gravity? So someone that hasn't had engineering classes, what the heck is center of gravity?
So if you think of all the bits that hang off your body, if you think of if you had a balanced weight, and if you had a plate that was 2 by 2, and then you had mass that was actually going to be, if you were going to stick an apple in the middle of it,
right,
the center would sit centralized to it. However, if I then had the apple shape that was a part of this metal, and then I moved it slightly to the front, the center of that gravity would move. Right. It would no longer be bang in the middle of the plate, be slightly forwards. Now, this is me describing a metal plate with an apple's shape on it.
Right.
Now, if we take the super sophisticated physiology of a human being, and just for this discussion at this point, is you just think of it just in men.
Yeah.
Different weight, different fitness, different if they have a pot belly from beer, or if they are overweight, if they're super fit. Then you throw an even further complication of what if you're female?
Yeah.
Hip physiology, breasts, and that ability as well. It kind of shows that now what we've got is a whole spectrum of gravity positions.
Right. Yeah. It's a it's distribution of soft tissue, and then you hang you put another mass on. So say the exoskeleton is the other mass. I love your visual of like tie a string to an apple and then put like a weight on one side of it, and then see how the apple is not like hanging like perfectly.
That's what I mean. Yeah, exactly.
It's shifted over because of the weight, and that's kind of what's happening with the body. Is if you put on a backpack with like your laptop or some books in it, that's now changed your center of mass and shifted it slightly, and you have to adjust to that with everything you're doing. And what we were talking a little before we got on here, and we were talking about people above the ground, so either on scaffolds, I imagine ladders, anything where you're not on solid ground anymore, and there's always an issue of balance, right? And so it is how is the construction site and the exo manufacturer and everybody kind of managing this situation? What's kind of going on out there?
This at the minute prompts a really, really huge discussion of if you have exos in this case, if you have people who put these on, then fall and trip and injure themselves, who is liable?
Oh, wow.
This is the big risk question.
Right.
And I said in our last podcast, we'd have a risk of the day. And this is my risk of the day. Or as some of the articles I've read, social, they actually termed it the phenomenon known as risk transfer.
Yeah.
Who does actually own that risk? Is it the person's company who purchased the device?
Right.
Is it the manufacturer? This is where debate has to really sit and where consensus starts to come in. Because the question is, I hate to say, but whose fault is it?
Well, let me give you another crazy example. I've never seen this happen, so I'm making this up. But you could see when somebody would do this, especially today. So I'm going on a construction site. If you're going on a construction site, you always, at least here in America, I assume in other places around the world, you got to have a hard hat. And
Hmm.
usually you have to have a safety briefing, all that. But you at least have to have a hard hat. You got to have closed toe shoes, all that. Say I want to get some video footage of what's going on at the construction site. So I mount a little camera on my hard hat, GoPro or whatever your favorite camera is. And then I get on the construction site and I trip. Is it because I put the camera on? Or is it because I'm just clumsy? Who takes the liability, right? And I put that in the same context of an exo. It's like, okay, how can you say one thing is the, correlation is not causation, as they say,
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. So it's. I mean, we all know of a famous case where a famous celebrity who was skiing did the same thing, put a GoPro on his helmet, and some of the court case suggested that because he put that on his helmet, he voided the helmet's ability to protect his head,
Right.
and that opens up a huge question. So, if we think about that as an overall piece. Another interesting turn on this as well, and let's face it, this is that horrible term that even we get when we're in conversation, when we're writing standards, liability.
Oh, well.
Whose fault is it?
Right.
Whose
Well,
fault does it actually sit at?
right. And at the end of the day, while liability is something you have to deal with, at the main thing is you don't want people getting hurt on the construction site or
Sure.
or at any workplace. So, the ultimate solution has to deal with that. And so you will have to deal with the whole, shenanigans around liability. But ultimately it's about, okay, how do you give your people the tools to do the job in the best way possible and the safest way possible, And those two things should be one and the same. And, I don't want anybody to think that exos aren't a tool that could help with productivity and safety in a sense in a lot of cases in construction. But, it's also, we have to point out, just like you're pointing out, it's like, hey, it's a new tool and we need to consider these different use cases, and maybe we need to start doing some testing around this to see if it's having any kind of effect that we're not expecting, right?
So, two big safety companies around the world, they actually have a real issue trying to decide what an exo is, because they can't decide whether this is a machine that's strapped to your leg,
right?
For example, a machine strapped to your body, or a piece of PPE. Now, interesting, I didn't know this either. So PPE is a definition to UK, US,
Yes.
Germany. It's all different.
Yeah.
Everybody says
slightly
PPE
different.
is a little bit different.
Yeah, slightly different.
So what it gets you into a position of is them trying to decide, is it a machine? Is it PPE? Or where does it actually sit? And right now, it's hard to really say. It is really hard to say as to exactly where that is.
I mean, it goes back to somewhat is what is the intent of the use of it? And this is my opinion. Intent of the use of it. So back to my hard hat type example. Yes, the hard hat does a great job protecting you from, solid objects of a certain size and weight from, hitting you in the skull and really doing some serious damage.
Yeah.
Does it make your head hot as hell? Yeah, absolutely. So it's a PPE, but it causes another issue that you wouldn't necessarily have without that. But it protects you from other things. And so you could put, if your intention was with exos saying, hey, this is a PPE, this is to protect the workers' back muscles, skeletal, whatever, to keep them from getting injured from all these loads they're moving around. Okay, now you have to look at it from a PPE. There's going to be some trade-offs there. If it's a tool, then it's like, okay, what are the, we know some big tool manufacturers, they would look at it's like, okay, are they using the tool appropriately? If the tool is being used appropriately, then there should be limited risk as long as they're following all these protocols that we outline.
Yeah, it's a good point. The other aspect as well that really came about is the idea of that when you're designing these exos, when they're getting produced, one of the conversations that we'd had in some of our meetings was about the idea of intent.
Mm-hmm.
When's it going to be used?
Right.
So one thing we know when we're trying to certify the EXO, we know for sure that we've got to plan to a level of misuse. The
Sure.
manufacturer has got to plan to a level of misuse.
Right. Foreseeable misuse. Absolutely.
Yeah. So surely that point is at the point where the manufacturer then needs to start signing off the device, and then ownership of people being not trained how to use the device is then onto the company.
Right. Yeah. It's like I'll give you an example. Is that there was I won't say who, but there was a certain exoskeleton manufacturer. I will say it's sort of like in that commercial / research stage, and they were giving it to this group of folks in a construction type environment, an outdoor, what I call an unstructured environment. Lots of different things. It's not this controlled little clean facility or warehouse or something. It's you're outside, and one of the things they're like is whatever you do, don't jump in this. Like, but they're outside, and I can imagine telling a construction worker or something. It's like, okay, don't jump down from anything from this. I mean, just getting in and out of a truck, or going over a brick wall and just jumping down after you go. I mean, it's going to happen. And so those are kind of the silly things you have to listen, that's foreseeable. You can't say you can't do that, right?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're in a testing state, if somebody comes along and says, "Look, your device is dangerous. I don't want anybody jumping in that," then fine. I totally get that. But if you're a manufacturer who rolls up and then says, "Look, you shouldn't be jumping in," you kind of go, "Yeah, that's not going to happen. There's going to be motion in such a way like that."
Yeah, and I guess my concern with my example was that why would you put your device in a testing type of situation that's unstructured, where this could foreseeably happen, and then give this oh, don't ever do this kind of thing? Come on, it's most likely going to happen in this environment. So let's keep it until you can handle this situation. Let's keep this in a structured testing environment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the work that I've been able to uncover so far on this has expanded a little bit further as well. So one concern is that if you're in construction now, if you just shift position slightly from construction, let's say you're constructing an aircraft, right, and you're inside the aircraft.
Sure.
Then let's say, God forbid, person wearing the device has a heart attack and they need imminent help.
Yeah.
If they're wearing that exo, how are you going to be able to? It's that access to helping them to get them out of it.
Right. Yeah, and that's a training and knowledge-based type situation, beyond just the physical kind of challenges from that type of environment. No matter whether it's an aircraft carrier or anywhere else, any kind of constraining could be in a bathroom. Wherever you're doing work, you're building a bathroom. It's a tight space. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That becomes okay. Do you have something that a first responder is probably going to be a firefighter, maybe EMS, but probably a firefighter EMS, so they know how to either take this thing off or cut it off without causing an additional risk. That to me is like something that should be a part of the whole conversation.
I only smile just because that's one of the key things that I've found of that. Let's say you got it on. Let's say you're wearing a passive structure. We've got a spring that's loaded.
Oh yeah.
Somebody goes to cut it off. You've then I shouldn't laugh. You've then got the EMS cuts it off, frees the energy, boom, off
Right.
it goes,
Right.
causes some further injury from that side.
Right.
I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I am not saying that exos don't have a position here. I'm saying exos do have a position here.
Right.
But what I'm saying now is when we refer to that adoption process, because I mean, let's face it, some of the work that's been done over academia through to industry and all different types of development work in exos is phenomenal. So it's all there.
Right.
And I think now what we need to do is try and bring in some of this consolidated work together to get a bit more of a consensus approach as to
Right.
what is deemed as safe.
Well, and you know, it's funny. You know, you might make me think of like, you know, the pencil solution, which is the pencil solution for all of those types of issues is transparency of technology. And what I mean by that is uh, those structures of exos or any technology like that are could only be potentially dangerous in that situation if the person trying to remove it or cut it off can't apparently see how this works and what's there. Clearly, this could be handled by just good labeling saying, hey, spring under tension here, you know, and simple stuff. Even like, let's go crazy town. Hey, if you're going to make your covering out of plastic, why don't you make it clear plastic so somebody can see there is a spring or lever under tension here. You can see it, you know? So
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You know, great. Obviously, you still need training, you need documentation, but having things where people can see it and not hiding it like it's magic, because it ain't. That can go a long way. Transparency in technology can go a long way to fixing some of these things. You know, I think the same thing with the balance issue. Having some transparency about, okay, how is this tech going to make things different, good and you know, it's going to give you these good things, but there's going to be a challenge in this area, and you just need to adjust for this. As long as you know, you can, you know, just like if you've ever gone backpacking, after you've walked a few miles, maybe a lot of miles, you can adjust to that weight. But you know, it's a thing you need to know and you need to experience in order to do it.
Exactly. And that's where I think it comes onto a conversation that I think we'd had this millions of times,
Right.
but about the idea, and one of our good friends, Carl from Liuna,
Yeah.
we talked about the idea of a setup procedure.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's funny now to this day, just really looking at some of this data that I've been able to pull from this area, looking at what our friends have been saying, kind of looking, it's a damn good idea. What about a setup procedure? Right. Then what you're able to do is a company is able to embrace that method. And this is not a rant, but there's other thing I realize as well. You know, we always listen to technology is going to be taking jobs and stuff. Yeah, I actually argue this is adding jobs, but safety jobs.
Yeah.
We're going to end up with people on site who are going to be level 3 trained to maintain the devices and to ensure that if they're running with an exo on, right, they can do these setup procedures. And one of our conversations, if you remember, was about the idea of that if you're on site, could we have pictures on a wall which just says put on your exo? And then somebody can look at you as to check the device's level of maintenance, but also look at the device's ability and the user's ability to use it using some of the standards that we've worked on.
Right. Right. It's the same thing with any other, like even like safety harnesses. You should be able to look at, you know, how someone's got a safety harness put on and be able to see like right away, okay, this is on correctly, or whoa, you do not have something tied in correctly. This is going to be a problem here. Yeah. You know, for recreational use, climbing harnesses. You can see pretty quick if someone does not have their climbing harness on in the correct way. You know, it just looks odd.
Yeah.
And
yeah, so I mean, it's for classic engineering. I used to do an experiment with students, and they used to love it. Don't know now, but they used to love it. And I used to get a nut, and then I would get a wrench.
Yep.
And what we would do is get a wrench that would fit that nut to show that the way that it translates across. Then we get a wrench that didn't fit that nut, and then we try to chew the nut.
Right.
Then we run it through FEA, and we're able to discover by using the wrench, which is the wrong size, leads to such a difference in distribution of force across that material that there's a lot more concentrated focused force on the edges of the tooth of the nut,
right,
leading it to be chewed. This comes back to the idea of the same principle. If the exo's not fitted, not in that positional state, are we going to see the same thing? If people aren't wearing it properly, are they going to be the tooth of that nut?
Right. And I would, this kind of falls into, like, I'd say the PPE realm. Anybody that's worked with PPE or been around areas that you have to wear, like, either safety glasses or helmets or whatever, it's the same thing. The first thing about that is if you do not wear those things correctly, they don't work so good. It's like I've seen motorcycle people do this where they don't put their helmet on all the way. They actually just sit the helmet on top of their head.
I've seen this. Yeah, I've seen this.
And everything's like fully open. They've got it on top of their head just enough where it won't fall off. But I'm just like, why even bother this? You have a perfectly
just take it off.
Yeah, just take it off. And that's the thing. With any PPE, with anything, you have to do it where it's fitted properly, or it's not going to function the way it's designed. It's not going to either protect you or help you,
Yeah, exactly. And I think because everything comes with its own criteria of how well it needs to be supported, that comes all the way back to when you put an exo on, is it a machine that's strapped to your body, or is it PPE?
Right.
Is it one? Can it be both?
I think, man.
I don't know, and that's where if anybody listens to this and they go, no, it can't, please do comment.
I mean, I've seen situations where I'd say it's both. Like, I have a friend, and I won't do free advertising here, but his device, it kind of serves as a, hey, this is keeping you from straining your back when you're doing stuff like, where you have to work on your knees or you're having to reach over far. But it also lets you get the task done faster and at a higher quality because you aren't straining your back to do it. And you're not having to take rest breaks every 5 to 10 minutes because you're straining your back. So I'm like, that falls, to me, in my mind, that kind of falls into the PPE and tool category in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, if I think I know the exact friend you're talking about, and yeah, we're not endorsing anyone right now, but yeah, I mean, I must admit that is an approach I still think to this day is brilliant.
It is brilliant.
It's just brilliant. It's the not trying to cure the world's problems, just looking at that problem and solving it. Well, so yeah, I'm a big advocate for said friend.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you were talking about risk. It's risk mitigation. It's like, listen, you're going to be doing this task where you're going to be stooped over, you're either on your knees or just bent over in some way, and you're going to be there for more than a couple minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if there's something where I can take the strain off my back and it, in this case, free a hand, because instead of me having to put a hand down, I now have some way to do it, and I can get two hands on this thing. Man, that seems pretty smart. I have to say, that seems pretty smart.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, I mean, I did listen to somebody give me a counter on this saying, okay, so let's say you've got a device on.
Yeah.
And for our definition, interestingly, just as a side note, if you had something that would support your body as you were led down, would that be supernumerary?
Well, sure.
It technically would.
Sure. I mean, it's no different than, like, we've talked about this for years. It's like the steady cams for holding cameras, movie cameras, video cameras, whatever kind of cameras.
Yeah.
And you can call that supernumerary because it's not, it's like an extra arm. It's basically it's a fancy way to say, oh, it's like an extra arm for you.
Yeah. Yeah, if anybody's ever seen Dr. Octavius,
Yeah.
many supernumeraries.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah. Or if you've seen your your wife, your girlfriend, or whatever carry groceries in, somehow they grow arms because I've seen them hang like 20 or 30 like grocery bags off of them.
yeah, I seen that.
I'm like, I can't even tote that much. How are you doing that?
Yeah, my grandmother like that. Straight to the grocery store,
Oh
come
yeah.
back, 40 bags, and you go, I'm not even going to ask.
Yeah, I don't even want to know how you did that. It's like they're hung all the way down to the elbows too. I'm like, how are you doing
Yeah.
this?
How are you even doing that? It's just incredible. So, let's say you've got a supernumerary arm. This is supporting the body as you're laid down. And then let's say you sit back, you've done your job, but you have a bruise on your
Yes.
chest.
Yeah.
Whose fault is it?
Why does it have to be a fault? Let me question your premise to start with.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. If you have a bruise on your chest from doing the job, why is it a problem?
So, what if it's from using a tool?
Okay. I, let me. I'm still playing devil's advocate here.
Oh, keep going. I
do
think
have
you're
a
going to
point.
go where I went with this. Go, yeah.
Okay. So, how about if I was using a hammer drill and I got a bruise on my palm? I'm using a hammer drill. I'm drilling hard concrete half a day, maybe all day. Oh, wait a minute. Let's go crazy. I'm going to use a jackhammer. Oh, pick some other tool that I can't do this real easy by hand that I really need to do this job, but I'm going to get a bruise. Why is that a problem? At some point, some of these things you kind of expect you may get bruised from doing it. It's gonna happen because the advantage you get from the tool is worth some of the repercussions of it.
Yeah, I mean, so just for context, this wasn't my point, and I went almost similar to you. I actually said, technically, if you take 20 nails and start banging them into the wall, you might end up with a bit of a blister on your thumb.
Sure.
Is it the manufacturer's fault for that? Is it what is it?
I mean,
Then somebody said to me, well, what if you're wearing the proper gloves to do the hammer? You won't end up with it. And I said, so technically, if you're not wearing the correct equipment in the workplace, that could lead to your bruise.
Right. Well, and I would say even with the chest bruise, I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing in my head. It's like, okay, I'm gonna get this slight bruise here because I leaned over and I put all my weight on this for like way too long, like an hour and a half, like a crazy amount of time, and but the thing is, like, okay, how bad would my back have been, and how long would it have taken me to do this job if I didn't get this little bruise? Now, would I probably wear something different in the future if I had to do a job that long? Put some sort of padding in there? Yes, I would. But that wouldn't have stopped me from, I wouldn't be like, hey, this is the tool's fault. I'd be like, hey, I had this really long job. I had to put a lot of weight on this. Of course, I'm going to get a little bruise, but my back didn't get hurt. That's my thinking. But, people think differently about this kind of stuff.
So my next real curveball on this, Howard, active exoskeleton.
Yes.
And passive exoskeleton.
Oh, Lord.
Right? Do you think active exos have a place in the construction site on a scaffold?
Well,
I know it's heavily loaded.
That's heavily loaded. My challenge here with the question is, it's really not necessarily powered versus passive. To me, it's really about, does it fit well? Does it have a lot of weight that kind of makes you one-sided? So something that could impact your balance, and in a powered situation, it's like, okay, is this going to make me hot? because it's probably going to have a battery or something on it. It's like, those kind of things wear on me first. And then the next thing is like, okay, then I start looking at how is the actuation, I'm going to use the powered word, but it means the same for passive. How is the actuation happening for the passive versus the powered? If I'm up high, that could be 3 feet for me, up high above the ground, and this thing's going to be somewhat more explosive, I don't want it. If it's going to be controlled and measured where, there's no surprise moves or anything like that, it's going to be, I have some, it's very, I'm going to be able to control the movement around this and it's just going to help me. I don't care either way. Yeah. That's where my concerns would be in whether it was powered or passive. It's like, okay, is there any kind of spastic movement of this or possibility of spastic movement? Is it going to change my balance? And is it going to make me hot?
So I can, because what I'll do is I'm going to use your magic against you.
Okay, please do.
Several years ago, you were on a podcast, and I say several years ago because I heard it recently.
Yeah, I
know. Where you talked about the idea that not everything needs to be covered with a powered actuator.
I still agree
with
that.
Some pieces can survive just as well being a passive-based structure, which I totally agree with, by the way.
Yep.
So if you then take two key components, the passive-based piece, and keep that passive in thought, and then if you take the active side, but then really, really hone in on that intent, does that then come back to the idea of that one approach that I believe, and many companies, some who do it really well, some who don't, but some who do it really well, focus their devices to say, that's what this is for. It's not for this, it's not for this, and it's not for this.
Yeah.
So arguably, I think it was a bit of a trick question, if I'm honest, of that it's it's passive, but if the intent is correct, it's got good reason to be there. Surely then it serves a good purpose.
And you know me, we've been friends for a long time. It's like my mentality about almost everything, design, engineering, production, is less is more. I'm a big fan of minimalists, especially in these situations, because you're changing the risk profile by putting someone up on a scaffolding or whatever. So it's a little bit higher risk type job versus if someone was doing that same job on the ground. That's just how physics works. And so to me, I want the minimal amount in order to do that job correctly and safely. So I don't need like fancy actuators or anything if they're not necessary. Less is more, especially the higher up I go. I just want the minimal amount of stuff that I can do this job and then get back down on the ground.
So, just tying into the former podcast, would you think integration would help on this case?
Yes and no. Because, here's the thing. I'm going to tie back to what we just said.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So it depends is if the exo is PPE or a tool. If it's PPE and you're going to have to wear it all the time anyway because of the job environment, fine, integrate it. If it's a tool and I can go up, use it, and then come back down, take it off because it's not PPE, that's good too. So it depends on what is the intent of this. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think really then, just honing that back slightly. So if we play this out.
Yep.
I've just gone out. I've purchased 5 exos.
Okay.
I own a construction company, and 5 of my guys are going to be wearing exos.
Wonderful.
Now I'm going to play devil's advocate to one of the conversations that we'd had that somebody can't read English that well.
Okay.
Just this is a common thing across the world that sometimes you've got so many bilinguals. Hell, I mean, I look at some things and not a clue.
So this is like a self-reflection, right?
It really is. It's me. So then I then get there. They're all going to be scaffolding workers.
Yeah.
I need to try and ensure that they're safe. Now, under reflection, it's probably going to be my fault if one of them takes a tumble from me not looking after my guys from wearing this exoskeleton.
Right.
So then I'm right in saying of that I bring somebody in to train my guys to ensure.
Right.
But if they're working in rainy weather, if they're working in sunny weather, and if they're working in freezing weather, they're wearing something different. If they're wearing something different, that center of gravity again gets shifted.
Yeah.
If they're holding different tools, different tool belt, for example, that center of gravity gets shifted.
Right.
The real concern with this is how do you mitigate and ensure to minimize that possibility of that them guys aren't coming for a tumble down.
Right.
Do you spend 2 weeks training them?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's where this kind of goes. So let me give you some of my thoughts in my head around this. So there's some, you have to make some initial assumptions around this kind of this problem set. One of the assumptions, the implied assumption that I heard from you is this is the first time these guys are wearing it.
That's right.
That's
right.
That is a critical piece right there. If you make that assumption, you're going to have to spend a lot more time preparing them for using it the first time versus this is the 50th time that they're using these same exos. Then it's more of like, hey, here's a refresher. Here's what's going on. Just like any other tool you're using. But, you know, at this point, they've used it 50 times. They've been up on whether they're doing roofing or scaffold work or whatever. This is their 50th time. You know, as long as we're making sure that, hey, you're remembering this is what you do. This is how, with any of the gear, I don't think there's as much to. But that first time, that's a whole different story. It's just like any new, whether you call it PPE or any new tool, you're introducing that into the environment for the first time. There has to be a lot more prep work before you just turn people loose. That's the way I would say from a risk management.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So I remember chatting with someone on one of our meetings before where they told us what they did is they purchased a lot of soft exos and they gave them to the employees and told them to take them home for the weekend.
Yeah.
And just wear them and do all types of crazy stuff around the house and, you know, bring down the Christmas tree. And I can actually see the reason for that. Familiarizing yourself with a device to ensure that element to it. And it made me think also of the idea of that. My experience of when I was speaking to UK military. Right. I shouldn't laugh, but this is really true. One of the highest reasons for military discharge UK can be young males in their mid-20s acting like idiots,
right,
and injuring themselves doing stupid stuff.
Right. Yeah. Usually stuff that has nothing to do with their dangerous job. It's just regular stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Actual reasons for them being discharged for not actually doing what they're meant to be doing.
Right.
And it just got me to thinking of the same principle of that. You know, it's one of them things. It's just to keep people trained and to have a good idea of what it is that they're using.
Well, let me give you another example here. So this is kind of contrary, but it's interesting because you brought up, you know, risk and liability and all these kind of things. So, and we've sort of danced around this one a little bit a couple of times. Motorcycle gear, motorcycle jackets. You go to the store, you buy it, you get a little booklet. Probably nobody even looks at the booklet. You just make sure the jacket fits whatever you think fit is. Your fit's probably wrong, but you make sure it fits, it zips up or whatever, and you just go out the store and either ride off on your motorcycle or go home, get on your motorcycle, and you just go. And if you have a crash or something, well, that, you know, hopefully it'll protect you. maybe it will, maybe it won't. But there's none of this. Hey, I'm going to sue the manufacturer of this jacket. I'm going to do. I've never heard of anybody doing that.
Mm.
So that's kind of a situation where this is a PPE. It's totally voluntary. So a lot of the situations you were describing where it was sort of implied that it wasn't voluntary whether the people could use the exo or not. It was like, hey, we're giving you the
Oh,
exo.
yeah,
You
yeah,
gotta
okay,
wear it.
yeah.
That changes the game. And that's like a whole nother conversation of, if someone buys an exo and brings it to a work site and it's not issued by the company, how does that change things? That's a whole different story, right? So that's part of this. Is like it's not straightforward. It all depends on, to me, what is the intent, who bought it, is it required, or is it voluntary?
Mm.
All of those things play into this whole risk, liability, and training scenario.
Mm. So it's interesting you say that as well. I was recently at another committee week, on ASTM committee week, and I managed to sit in to listen to the airsoft committee.
yeah.
There's an airsoft committee.
Of course.
These guys, obviously they knew the weapons, what they were doing, and it's about the velocity of the round as it moves. What I didn't realize is if you get somebody gets a GoPro, and let's say they got a GoPro, and then they use duct tape to attach it to the weapon.
Sure.
If that goes wrong, total liability is not on them. They're completely, actually, in their manuals, it says, do not duct tape attachments to the device,
Right.
else we cannot guarantee performance. And it just got me to thinking of the same thing, of that if you get an exo,
Yeah.
any type of exo, and then you come in and then you attach even a badge to that
Sure.
exo, and it compromises performance, surely by that side, then you get to a whole new level of problematic issue.
Sure. And that, again, that kind of goes back to like this whole transparency in technology. That's one of the things that needs to be made clear, is not only where things actuate, what's under tension, where things going to move, but okay, what can you and what can you not do to this as far as like attaching stuff, modifications, all that kind of stuff. It's like, this strap over here may not matter. Put whatever bling you want on this. But if you mess with this strap, that's not so good. Don't do that.
So it was like our friend Carl said. So we're on there. He was describing a site where they had these exoskeletons, and they were there, and they were, I don't remember what it was. They're either doing some type of chemical mixtures for some construction. And he was saying that what it did is it attached itself to the fabric.
Right.
And it broke down the fabric. So the fabric just broke down into dust in the overall of it.
Yeah.
So you kind of look and go, I don't know what that was, but whatever it was, the way it reacted, it kind of shows that maintenance is also a key thing about these as we're moving forwards. Because I mean, I've become quite interested on the construction side just because there's so much, as you like with Kosh, you just look and go, there's so many chemicals there, right from paints through to mixtures to ensure that they're completely mold proof and so forth.
Right.
So you've got so much going on, and then you're wearing this device around you. So that maintenance and looking after on that side is just as big as a key thing. And that's even where on our committees, there's still, I laugh because you know of this, there is still a standard being developed on cleaning.
Sure. And that's key, right?
Exactly. And at the time it was kind of like, oh, this thing's never going to go anywhere, but now it's becoming more relevant than ever.
Well, here kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's all about assumptions and implied assumptions. If you're wearing any kind of textile PPE, even if it's a fluorescent vest, whatever, there is an implied assumption that you can take, no matter what, whether you're doing concrete, asbestos abatement, whatever, there's a way to clean this thing, or at some point maybe destroy it. But there is a process there.
Mm-hmm.
We're still in the early days with exos where that's not very clear. A lot of exos have some sort of textile on them, no matter,
Mm.
whether it's just a strap here or there. And they have different materials, some plastic, some metals, who knows what it could be. How can they be cleaned? And when should you clean stuff and when shouldn't you clean stuff? And
Mm.
all those questions are kind of, right now, the manufacturers bear all the burden of kind of doing that. And that's makes it difficult for them, and it makes it difficult for the consumer to know, hey,
Yeah.
will this work in my situation? Especially you
Yeah.
get into construction situation. They run into so many things just from regular dirt, but concrete dust, all these kind of things that
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
not going to happen around your house, but in a construction site, it's every day.
Yeah. I'm just checking. As ever, I have notes on my screen as I'm going through. That's all. So I'm not just making this up as I'm going along.
Yes, you are.
Um. Yeah. So. Yeah, I was making sure I covered everything I wanted on that side, just because the idea of construction itself. One thing that was risen to me by somebody is, don't get me wrong, in the military environment, the person's got a large chance because people are obviously shooting at each other. In the construction site, it's really interesting. So everything's attacking the exo, everything's attacking the person. So as a design challenge, I actually think it's actually quite challenging to come up with a device that can survive all these different environments in such a way.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, it's like sometimes you have to take, things that have worked in environments like that and see, okay, what can I adopt from those technologies to work in an exo? And that's a way to kind of look at that. It's like, okay, you can go look in a whether it's a military environment, a medical environment, a construction environment. What materials are working
Mm.
fine in those environments? And am I introducing a new material that is not common in that environment? Then I would have
Yeah,
to do
yeah,
more testing and stuff. If I'm going to use stuff that's already common there, that makes it easier in my mind. That's what I would think.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I think and establishing that commonality is going to be
Yeah,
challenging as well moving forward with the introduction. And I know this is completely different to what we're talking about,
sure.
but the introduction of AM in the construction site,
Well,
you've now got a whole new realm of issues that are emerging.
right, right, and you can print so many different things, so many different plastics, different types of metals now, even some wood type things. So it's in the
And also in
structure that
concrete.
comes out of it is not can be homogeneous or non-homogeneous as far
Yeah.
as the structure. So there's a lot of things there from a materials and engineering perspective you have to take into account for these different environments. It's great, but there's like a million options you have to kind of look at. So,
Yeah.
and then I think a thing I want to talk about in a future episode is I want to talk about this new terminology that's coming up for exos and other wearable tech, and what does it mean? Is a lot of times now people are calling what I would call an exo sometimes physical AI. And so I want to explore that in a future
Mm.
episode and see
Yeah.
see what that really means.
Yeah. There's a couple I want to as well.
Good.
So for example, smart orthotic.
Yeah.
Orthotic brace.
Yeah.
I we
We love the brace,
how
don't we?
Oh my god, I hate the brace. I hate the brace. Hate it.
But yeah,
No.
the whole orthotic, the medical side of and prosthetics, orthotic prosthetics, we call them sometimes medical exos that sort of fit in those categories. I mean, I think that's a whole realm we can kind of explore going forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And really opening that up, and hopefully I'd like to bring some other people on so we can ask them a few questions too.
Awesome. Yeah, if you're listening to this and you work in those areas, give us a ring. We'll bring you on. We'll chat with you. So,
Amazing.
all right. Have a good day, man.
Yeah, you too. See you soon.
See you soon.